This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Good afternoon, my viewers and subscribers, and welcome back to the channel for another news update for November 3, 2022. And in the news today, son charged for alleged beheading of his mother in St. James. The police in St. James have charged the son of the woman who was found with multiple chop wounds and her head severed at their home in Retirement District. 29-year-old Shemoy Brown, otherwise called Shem, was charged with murder on Wednesday afternoon. He gave a caution statement to investigators. The police reported that the attack on 53-year-old Michelle Gail Brown was carried out sometime between Sunday night and Monday morning. Reports by the Granville police are that Gail Brown, who works as a caregiver, did not turn up for work on Monday morning, and the calls to her cell phone by her employer went unanswered. A report was made to the police later Monday afternoon. A police team went to her house and discovered that the dwelling was locked. The cops forced their way inside the house and discovered the woman's headless body in blood and wrapped in a sheet. Both her arms were also partially severed. Her head was later found wrapped in a towel inside the kitchen. Two charged in St. Anne over gun attack. The police in St. Anne have charged two men over a gun attack on another. Charged with wounding with intent and illegal possession of firearm are Marlon Guy, otherwise called a Chopper, a 25-year-old higgler of Windsor Road, St. Anne's Bay, and Wiseman Treasure, otherwise called a Breach, a 20-year-old welder of Windsor Road in St. Anne's Bay. The incident happened along Windsor Road in St. Anne's Bay, St. Anne on Thursday, October 13. The police report that the complainant was walking along the roadway when two men confronted him. Treasure allegedly brandished a firearm and shot the complainant in his upper body. He was transported to hospital where he was admitted. Guy and Treasure were subsequently charged as they were positively pointed out on an identification parade on Tuesday, November 1, 2022. Their court dates are being finalized. Cobb held in custody for 3 days after murder acquittal awarded more than $17 million. A policeman who spent 3 days and 3.5 hours in custody after being freed by the appellate court on a murder charge in 2017 has been awarded more than $17 million in damages for the unlawful detention. The award was made recently after Leonard Lindsay sued the state for malicious prosecution and false imprisonment after being barred from leaving prison despite the appeal court acquitting him of his criminal charge. Policeman Leonard Lindsay was charged with murder following a shooting incident in 2010. He and his colleague Tyrone Finley responded to a report of robbery, and during a shooting, one man was killed. Lindsay argued at a trial that he fired in self-defense, but he was convicted and sentenced to 25 years imprisonment at hard labor. He appealed the conviction and was acquitted on November 17, 2017, but he was not released from prison until 3 days later on November 20, 2017. Detective Lindsay later sued the state for his false imprisonment, which lasted 3 days and 3 hours, and for malicious prosecution based on the case which was brought before him. He asked the Supreme Court to award exemplary and aggravated damages based on the suffering he endured for the 3 days after his acquittal and the trauma he endured during the court process. The Supreme Court, in assessing his damages, found that the circumstances of his incarceration were harsh, as he was in constant fear for his life, especially from persons whom he had caused to be in prison. He also suffered embarrassment because he was arrested in front of his colleagues and many of them believed he was guilty. The court said based on his loss of reputation and all the other circumstances, he should receive $17 million with interest for malicious prosecution. He was also awarded $625,000 with interest for false imprisonment and $1.3 million for aggravated damages. PPV owners urged to request driving abstracts from ITA about their drivers. Minister of Transport Audley Shaw is encouraging motor vehicle owners to request the driving abstracts from the Island Traffic Authority about the persons who will be driving their vehicles. He believes that this will help the owners of public passenger vehicles to be aware of the traffic ticketing status of their potential drivers. The driving abstracts provide ticketing information, data on an individual's driver's license, including suspensions and revocations. Mr. Shaw, speaking on Thursday, highlighted that it is imperative for owners to have this information based on the responsibility the new Road Traffic Act places on owners. Under this new law, owners will be required to know the drivers or face penalties in the event that there is a breach. According to Mr. Shaw, this could limit incidents such as Tuesday's major collision on Cotton Spring Road, which appeared to be caused by a driver who had 120 outstanding traffic tickets. JTA claims 270 teachers still to receive September and October pay, but ministry says it is not seeing that number. Several teachers across the island are livid after not being paid for the past 2 months. A number of the teachers have told the news that they are yet to receive their salaries for September and October and have dismissed the claims by the Ministry of Education that the reason for the delay in the payments was because some documents were submitted late and they did not meet the cutoff for payroll periods. President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Lysandra Harrison, told the news on Tuesday that the ministry keeps making the argument about a late submission of documentation, which is not an acceptable explanation. If the documentation for September went in late, it would mean that you must be on the payroll for October. Why are you not on it for October? I can't understand. So even if the documentation was late, because that is one of the reasons exposed, to say the principal would not have submitted the documentation early enough in September, but by October you should be paid because you would have been very early for October, argued Harrison. She questioned whether the document from September is going on a snail's back to the ministry. Harrison said the situation is very frustrating for teachers because they are not getting much pay, and for you not to get paid and expected to go to work every day, and you have your own business spoiling. The JTA president charged that there is a perennial problem of teachers who are not paid for several months, with even persons who have been in school for 2-3 years. All of a sudden, they just drop off the ministry's payroll. At one corporate area school, one of the 12 teachers who have not been paid since September told the news that she does not accept the ministry's explanation. The 28-year-old teacher, who has been with the institution for 2 years, says through her own checks she learned that her documents for September were submitted late because the ministry has a cutoff point for each month's salary, which is the 14th of each month. She said she accepted this explanation and so was expecting a double salary in October. However, her account is still empty. So for September, the ministry had no compassion. Admin had no compassion to give anything, but we were expected to show up for work, show up on time, have breakfast, lunch, dinner, feed my child, take care of my family. For the month of October, waiting patiently with debts, with outstanding bills, and I say, all right, I am going to get paid for October. Come October, no pay, the teacher said dejectedly. This slackness at the ministry has been an ongoing one. I've made several social media posts, and I've had veteran teachers complain. Teachers have continuously gone months without salary, and within that time, we have received no hand-me-downs from anybody, but we are expected to fulfill every single obligation that we have, both professionally wise and personal wise. It's a lot, she added. The passionate young educator who has been teaching for over 7 years said she had had this experience more than 4 times during her tenure at various schools. This is my 4th school, so it is a fact that the issue is not with the institutions themselves, but with who is paying us. The salary department of the Ministry of Education is completely slack and not being held accountable. Years on top of years on top of years, this has been happening, and I really and truly believe that it needs to come to a stop because the teaching profession is from where every other profession comes, she fumed. Her colleague, a 62-year-old veteran educator who has been teaching for more than 25 years locally and overseas, has also not seen a cent since September. He says when he inquired, he was told that he needed to submit a specific form referred to as a 503 form in order for his salary to be processed. I'm in a position that is vacant from May and I got paid. I didn't get pay in May. I got it in June, 2 months in one, and I got in July and August. Come September, October, I don't get no pay yet, not a cent. When I went to the ministry on Monday, they say I have to carry the 503 form, so my principal signed it up yesterday, but I know that if you're in a vacant position, you don't need another 503, so that's the excuse they use because they don't pay me, and I went there yesterday. I went with some paper to demonstrate. I am disgusted how they treat you down by the Ministry of Education, he said. Another teacher said the failure of the ministry to pay them is hurting. I didn't come to work yesterday because I literally don't know how I would actually commute to work and go back home, as I didn't have the funds, he said. The 24-year-old educator, who lives in rural St. Catherine, says that over the last 2 months, there have been days when things are so rough that he has to go through the work week with no lunch. He appealed to the ministry to show more care for teachers and to deal with their situation with a greater urgency. It's our love for the children that actually keeps us here most of the times, so we will go out on a limb to ensure that they get what they're supposed to get, even though we are not getting what we are supposed to. It's not a high-paid profession, but at least at the end of the day, whatever we are doing here will make Jamaica into a better place in time to come, he said. But a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education, Maureen Dwyer, told the news that any teacher who was not paid will be paid this week. Dwyer argued that the issue is not very widespread. These are sort of perennial problems that we have when the claims come in late. We have a famous form that we call the 503 form, and sometimes they really don't come in on time. The payroll starts at a certain time and it ends at a certain time, and if we stop the payroll, then everybody will be paid late. So those who come in after the cutoff date, what we have to do, and generally we do this a lot, is to create another pay cycle for them, because we cannot stop the entire 20,000 other persons who are paid from the ministry for a few. So we have to do those, and then we do another pay date. So those that are out of the cycle will be paid today and tomorrow, she said, adding that they will get both their September and October salaries at that time. Dwyer said she had a conversation with the JTA president on Tuesday to have her send me her database so that I can know what she is seeing vis-a-vis what we are seeing at the ministry, so that we can mop up any loose ends. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.